talk to Dr. Sani Shinkafi. He's a security expert, executive director at Patriots for the Advancement of Peace and Social Development. Dr. Shinkafi, good to see you and good morning.
Good morning, Geoffrey. Good to see you.
Great. Let's talk about security. Picking up from all the conversations that have ensued. In fact, there are two signaling coming from Kaduna. On one hand, we're delighted to see that a lot of celebrations as far as Kaduna government is concerned when the governor announced resigning me to be a Christian, given what has happened under the Erufai administration and even in his first term. So that was a welcome development. But we also see the issue around insecurity. But generally, I want us to talk about the 19 northern states. And I'll give a prime example that we've talked about before. The level of insecurity is higher in the north, and that is facts available to all of us. When you look at what played out in Orire, where about 40-something or 30-something persons were kidnapped, children and their teachers, you saw the level of pressure citizens put on the government, on the security agencies, that those children must be released and all of that. Unfortunately, we lost 2 teachers and security agents. But when we see these things happen in the north, we don't see that level of pressure. The last time we saw that level of pressure is Chibok. The security agencies may be doing their bit, but not enough to be able to solve the problem as we've seen it so far. So the bigger question would be, what is it about the leadership and the culture and the religion of the people that we may not be looking at, that may be playing out in not helping out on the issue of national insecurity, especially as concerning the north? If you get my analogy on this one.
Yeah, thank you for having me. First and foremost, let me start with the nomination of the Christian deputy governor by the Obasani. I think it's a welcome development. And constitutionally, there's not any constitutional impediment that will restrain a governor to nominate a Christian as his running mate. And I think that is very good. It's a very good development, and also it will balance the political equation in the southern Kaduna, and Kaduna State, because for the past 8 years there is serious agitation that the southern Kaduna Christian were marginalized. But with this nomination of Christian as a running mate, I think also it will balance the political equation, and the political arithmetic will work very well in the favor of APC. Then, having said that, looking at what have transpired when the only school children and teachers were kidnapped, there is a serious pressure on the part of the state government, on the part of security agencies, on the part of Mr. President, who was the commander of the armed forces of the periphery of Nigeria. And that what pressurized the government at all levels to live up to their expectation in making sure that these kidnapped victims were rescued within the shortest period of time. If you look at in the northern Nigeria, for the first 1.5 decades, in the northeast, they are dealing with the issue of Boko Haram, ISWAF, insurgents, and terrorism. And when you look at also the north central, most especially in Niger State, in Kogi State, they are battling with the issue of Nakurawa, Boko Haram, Dawa, and terrorists, and armed bandit. When you look at the middle belt, that is Jos, Benue, and even part of Nasarawa State, they are battling with the farmers' headers clashes, armed banditry, kidnapping, corruption, ethno and tribal clashes. Then when you take the northwest, not in the epicenter of banditry, most especially Zamfara State, for more than 1.5 decades, this issue of banditry, kidnapping, ransom, rape, killings, bloodletting have been going on but still to be North Central Niger State. But looking at what transpired in Oriri, it is very unfortunate. The traditional rulers, the civil society organization, the governors, the religious leaders are not keeping to their expectation. All of them always keep mute. Kurida children were kidnapped. Jangere children were kidnapped. Ankara students were kidnapped. In Niger State, students were kidnapped. In Kaduna State, students were kidnapped. In Dapchi, in many parts, even as I'm talking to you now, some students writing their NEPU, June, July internal exam, are in captivity in Borno State. So this shows there is no total commitment. The leaders in the north and the elites are not keeping to their expectation to speak off. With the pressure from in the southwest, many civil society organizations were on the street. Media organizations were on the street. If you take the total of people who were kidnapped in the north, who are in captivity, who are in slavery now, in various armed bandit camps, there are more than 4,000. They are not up to this amount which were kidnapped. We are not up to 1% of total people who were kidnapped in the northern Nigeria. And the governors keep mute. I salute the courage of the governor, how he stands still to make sure that this the student and the children were released unconditionally. And yesterday he took even delivery of 2 surveillance aircraft to support the security operation in Oyo State. Looking at the topography of the area and the geographical location of the area is very forest. That's forest, a lot of forest, and they share boundary with the Benin Republic. So looking at this, if you critically analyze the leaders, both the governors, both the traditional rulers, religious leaders, civil society organizations, are not living to the expectation to speak of.
I mean, some would also question the fact that they had to take 2 teachers to die in that Oriri kidnap before the Oyo State government finally had to make that purchase. Whether or not it was in the pipeline, we do not know. All we know is that it only arrived after pupils and teachers spent 56 days in captivity. There's the Northern Nigeria Trust Fund. The 19 governors of the North, they say they want to donate 1 billion naira every month to tackle insecurity. Are you optimistic about this? My second question would be, when you look at Nigeria and the fact that since 1999, all the presidents, in terms of security, leadership, governance, and perhaps our democratic ideals, would you believe has served Northern Nigeria the most effective or more effectively? Is it former President Jonathan, OBJ, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, or the general himself, God rest his soul, General Muhammadu Buhari? Maybe 4 years of Tinubu as well. Who do you think has served the North more effectively and understands the issues of the North?
Yeah, you see the first question, you talk about the can you come back on the first question?
Yes, the Northern Nigeria Trust Fund, where the 19 governors of the North met just a couple of weeks ago, saying they'll donate 1 billion naira every month to tackle insecurity in the region. I was asking you, how optimistic are you about that decision?
Yeah, I'm not sure that whether the governors will live to their expectation, they will be committed, or they will redeem their promises. Because in the previous years, there was such security trust fund which was established. Even the governors were to attempt to pay, to be committing 100 million or 250 million on the security trust fund. But yet, many governors refuse to redeem their promises. So I'm not very optimistic. I'm not very certain whether the governors will redeem their pledges, because I will call it pledges. Because if you look at the trust fund, the composition of the trust fund, some are not even who were selected from other states are not security experts. They doesn't have a security background, and there is need to have people who will advise the state governors critically and on the issue of the security situation in their various states. Each of these northern states has their peculiar or dimensional security challenges. So if the governors are complaining, they cannot pay 70,000 minimum wage. Some cannot pay the salaries and wages. Some cannot pay NECO and WAEC. Some cannot pay pensions and gratuity. How can they commit 1 billion naira from their statutory allocation, unless and until if this money will be deducted from the source? That is why I will be very optimistic whether these governors will redeem their promises. Then on the issue of the previous presidents who have served not very well in terms of security issue or in terms of infrastructure development, you see, government is a continuum. It's a dancing stage. When you dance your own music, you allow another person to dance his own music. So if you look at it critically, since inception, since the return of democracy in 1999, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo has a military background, and during his tenure, there is no much security problem in the northern Nigeria apart from farmers, herders clashes, ethno and religious clashes, and also the issue of Boko Haram, who started germinating before the end of his tenure. So if you look at what happened in the middle belt, how he fought this problem, how he handled the problem of Zaki Biam, I think it's a very welcome development. He did it with drastically to address the issue, and how he also addressed the issue of also ethno-religious crisis in the Plateau State. How he imposed the state of emergency when he removed the Joshua Dai. We know that the Section 305 have given the president power, but that should be, it must be critically analyzed whether it will affect the public safety or the security of the state. He did well in that aspect.
Speaking of continuity and the role of government, let's look at the role of the subnationals now. And I'd like to tie it to an issue that many might consider the elephant in the room. And I'll explain. Putting it in proper context, if you looked at the prosecution, the arrests that have been made by the DSS, the names of the suspects that have been charged with the Orire kidnap, they're of northern extraction. The names of their commanders that were arrested last year and have now been paraded and charged and in fact sentenced, they're of northern extraction. If you looked at the Owo church attack, those who were arrested and have now been successfully tried and convicted, they're of northern extraction. The question is, are the subnationals looking at this closely and perhaps having honest conversations behind closed doors about how this is tied to underdevelopment in the north and how there's a preponderance of radicalism and participation of people from the north in this. Some will say ethnicity has crime has no ethnicity, but we cannot ignore the relationship between those who have been charged now and underdevelopment in the north. Do you think that those conversations are being had, Mr. Shinkafi?
Yeah, you see, since the inception of since Nigeria gained independence in 1960, after the defunct First Republic, where Sardauna, blessed memory, and Abubakar Tafawa Balewa were in charge of the northern province, have done everything humanly possible to develop the North in terms of basic infrastructure, issue of education. But there is total neglect by the elite from 1999 to date, and also the people who have found themselves in the corridor of power in the North. The issue of education, there is higher rate of illiteracy in the North. There is no political will to develop the abundant agricultural resources we have, the solid minerals. Many land have been left uncultivated. So with the higher rate of unemployment, out of school children, compounded this issue of insecurity in the northern Nigeria. Because most of the governors who have found themselves on the corridor of power are not discharging their constitutional role as a governors. Some of these governors are disappointing, diverting these funds for personal enrichment and abuse of office. So if the northern leaders and the northern elites and the people who are find themselves in the corridor of power, the governors, the legislatures, the local government chairman, have discharged their constitutional responsibility, fight this issue of unemployment, poverty, create employment, border surveillance, checkmate the excesses of this illegal immigrant, for proliferation of smaller and light arms into the northern border. The northern states, 19 northern states, most of these states share border with either Niger Republic or Cameroon or Chad or this thing, Benin Republic. So with this border, the border is very porous, and there is more than 1,400 illegal routes where you can smuggle drugs and narcotics. So what I'm saying in a nutshell, there is total neglect on the part of the people who have found themselves on the corridor of power. Bad governance,
yes,
infrastructure, judicial system.
Yeah, Dr. Shinkafi, we're totally out of time. We just have 1 minute from a producer. If you can respond to this, it's just something about, because this is another uncomfortable conversation or question I want to ask. Something about the interpretation of the sacred text of Quran that the leaders, spiritual leaders of the North needs to also look at. Because if you look at all the terrorist elements, they're extremists of the faith. Boko Haram, ISWAP, Al-Qaeda affiliate like Ansaru and all of that. So is this also a conversation being held behind closed that the Islamic faith, the Muslim, needs to look at the interpretation of the faith, and for those who advance peace, need to overwhelm these ones who are driving this extremism, because all over the, whether it's Al-Shabaab, whatever name you want to call, you always see them tied to the faith. 1 minute if you can.
You see, there is no any scripture of the Holy Quran or the Hadith collections that have guaranteed insurgency or have guaranteed extremism. All the scriptures of the Quran have clearly spelled out the penalty. Anybody who killed the person should be killed. In terms of the Hadith collection, it was clearly guided that how Muslims should conduct their life. There is no room for killings, no room for rape, no room for armed banditry, no room for any extremism. So anybody who has been killed should also be sentenced to death. But there should be a follow-through constitutional name.
All right.
Either through Sharia law or other English law. So no any provision in the from the 160 chapters of the Holy Quran in the whole Hadith collection, Muslim, Muwatta Imam Malik, many Hadith collection, there was no any provision in the Hadith where it has guaranteed extremism or any ideological the way they are taking it. It was not Holy Quran.
Yeah, all right, Dr. Shinkafi, it's important you put that out in the public, because whether it's Ansaru, Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, we can go on. you know what I'm talking about.
No, when you talk about Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, ISWAP, the terrorist is a terrorist, no matter how they name it, whether Lukrawa or Ansarudi or Mahmudawa.
All right, Dr. Shinkafi, totally out of time. Sani Shinkafi is a security expert, executive director at the Patriot for the Advancement of Peace and Social Development. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to see you again.
Absolutely. So let's take a break, and when we come back after this break, we'll switch gears to politics. Stay with us.